For nearly 150 years, people have been trying to solve the same problem. How do you get across this wall of the Blue Ridge Mountains? Here is the Shenandoah Gap between Old Fort and Black Mountain, North Carolina, lying between Asheville and the rest of the state. And long before Interstate 40 ever came through here, this mountain was already dictating how people and freight could move between western North Carolina and the Piedmont. In the 1870s, engineers attacked it with a railroad. More than 3,000 incarcerated laborers were put to work building the line between Old Fort and Ridge Crest, forcing it up the escarpment with curves, loops, and 7 tunnels. At least 139 men died during that work. Then the automobile arrived, and that winding mountain road became a part of what was known as the Central Highway, then North Carolina 10, and eventually U.S. Route 70. By the 1950s, the road was no longer enough, and North Carolina moved more than 3.3 million cubic yards of rock and earth, all to build a new 4-lane highway across the mountain, years before Interstate 40 officially existed. Eventually, that highway would become a part of I-40. But there is something about Old Fort Mountain that all the construction could not remove: the drop on the east side. It can be hard on an unprepared driver or vehicle, evidenced by the runaway truck ramps further down the hill. In other words, for 150 years, people have been trying to build a better way through here. The only problem is they couldn't engineer the mountain completely out of the equation. And today I'm going to take us on what can be a surprisingly frightening drop from the Blue Ridge all the way down to North Carolina's Piedmont. You might want to buckle up as you ride along with us today. Let's go beyond the exit. As we mentioned before, the railroad had finally given western North Carolina a dependable connection across the Blue Ridge. But by the beginning of the 20th century, Americans were starting to travel in an entirely different way, by automobile, and that meant they needed a road. In 1911, North Carolina authorized what became known as the Central Highway. It was a pretty ambitious route stretching from Morehead City on the Atlantic coast all the way to the Tennessee line. Now, this road wasn't a completely new highway built from end to end, but instead the state and counties had taken existing roads and connected them into a continuous route after upgrading them. At Old Fort, that meant climbing the eastern face of what's known as the Blue Ridge Escarpment up through Shenandoah Gap, then continuing west through Ridgecrest and Black Mountain on the way towards the Tennessee line. This was no longer just a local road serving communities on either side of the mountain either. It was actually becoming a part of a much larger road network. Now, when North Carolina began numbering its highways rather than giving it a specific name, Central Highway became North Carolina 10. With the creation of the U.S. numbered highway system in 1926, the road's name changed again, and it became a part of what's known today as U.S. Route 70. Like most roads back then, old U.S. 70 climbed the escarpment by following the shape of the terrain. So instead of the deep cuts and broad curves drivers know today on Interstate 40, that road worked its way back and forth along the mountainside through turns and steep terrain. For the motorists that were using it, the crossing was not simply another few miles of highway. It took some time, roughly about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the vehicle and, of course, traffic. But along that slow climb, a roadside culture developed. One of its best-known stops was a place called Point Lookout. It was perched high above Old Fort. Travelers stopped for gas and food, or even souvenirs. There were rooms and cabins for travelers, and for a while, even performing bears. But the real attraction here was simply the view out across the gorge toward the Piedmont below. A Point Lookout belonged to an era when the road itself forced travelers to slow down and take some time along the way. But by the post-war years, that same alignment that had helped create the roadside culture was becoming its limitation. And to be fair, people were traveling farther and faster, and the vehicles they drove were increasingly capable of meeting that demand. The road across Old Fort Mountain was not. By the early 1950s, North Carolina had made the decision that just improving that old road would not be enough to keep up. And this time, the road wouldn't work its way around the mountain. It would just move it. US 70 in the early 50s was described by state officials as an old and outdated highway that wound tortuously up the mountain. Now, between Old Fort and Ridgecrest, Route 70 was about 8 miles long and had 98 curves, including numerous hairpins. Add in the braking systems and safety features, or lack thereof, of the existing vehicles of the time, and it's not too hard to imagine that this was a pretty accident-prone area. Many accounts state between 20 and 30 per year. So North Carolina decided to move on from it. And on September 21st, 1951, the state awarded a $2.3 million contract for an entirely new 6.15-mile alignment between Old Fort and Ridgecrest. Instead of those 98 curves, the new road would just have 19, and they'd be broad, sweeping, engineered ones. Now, the road would climb 1,326 feet and a little over 5 miles, but the cuts would be 150 feet deep and some of the fills 200 feet high. In fact, all of the earthwork moved over 3.3 million cubic yards of material. So to put that in perspective, if you took a football field and its end zones and filled it with dirt, it would be close to 1,650 feet deep, which is about 200 feet longer than your average quarter-mile drag strip. Let's just say it was no small amount of dirt. And what they built here looks pretty much like what we have for Interstate standard today. But you have to remember that North Carolina did this all on their own, way before the Interstate Highway ever came through, which really puts a finer point on how important it was for them to correct this road. The only problem was, once it was finished, it would create a whole new problem. The new road had carried over the old designation of US Route 70. The road itself was better, but now heavier vehicles could approach the top of Old Fort Mountain at speeds the early highway would never have allowed. By the 1970s, this stretch of US 70 was already being used as temporary Interstate 40, even though it wouldn't become that until 1982. And even before the interstate conversion was complete, North Carolina had begun treating the descent here differently from an ordinary highway. A Federal Highway Administration report from 1978 gives us a remarkably detailed picture of what the drivers encountered here. At the top of the mountain was a truck information station. So if you were a truck driver at the time, you'd have to pull in here, stop at a traffic control light, and read information about the grade and the truck speed limit before continuing downhill. About 2 miles further down the mountain was another pull-off where a driver could stop again, check the truck over, and allow overheated brakes to cool. Warning signs continued along that descent. Now, for anyone who drives Old Fort Mountain regularly, that basic idea is still familiar. The mountain gives truck drivers several opportunities to make decisions before the grade leaves them with fewer choices. But North Carolina had already gone beyond signs and just stopping areas. In 1974, engineers installed 2 experimental escape areas, roughly 3 miles below the top of the mountain. Now, today, you would immediately recognize what they are: to give a truck a runaway ramp. At the time, though, the terminology there was a little less polished. North Carolina called them sand piles. The Federal Highway Administration described the Old Fort installation as 2 sand arrestor beds, approximately 340 feet long. They were placed only about 200 feet apart. State officials explained that if one was being repaired or already had a truck buried in it, the second would remain available. Now, this was also prior to the more common use of pea gravel or river rock style aggregate to fill, which would come into use in the mid-70s after extensive testing near the California-Oregon border, mainly at the Siskiyou Pass. There, they had to build arresters that would stop a truck not going uphill, but downhill. Now, we have a great video that covers this in detail, so if you might be interested, I'll leave a link in the description and at the end of this video. The fact that this consideration was there that early also identified Old Fort Mountain as more than just an interstate with a steep grade. More than 50 years ago, North Carolina was already using the descent to test ways to manage trucks long after their braking systems were gone. Those systems are still in effect today. In fact, if you're an eastbound truck over 10,000 pounds, making exception for pickups or vans, you're still required to enter the truck information station near the top of Old Fort Mountain, stop at the red light before being released back onto the highway. But every once in a while, a truck starts down Old Fort Mountain and suddenly find their choices have been taken away. That happened, sadly, in June of 2025. His name was Ralph Hilbert, and he was a 65-year-old from Georgia, and by the account of the trucking company he was working with, he had more than 30 years behind the wheel. He wasn't new to heavy trucks, and he wasn't simply passing through western North Carolina. For months, Hilbert had been working in the Asheville area as part of the recovery from Hurricane Helene. On the morning of June 17, 2025, his dump truck was loaded with track ballast, the crushed stone used to fill underneath railroad tracks. The material itself was being hauled for work on the Norfolk Southern line, damaged by the storm, and something went wrong near the top. Other truck drivers later told Old Fort police they saw Hibbert traveling more than 70 miles per hour before and during the descent. And Old Fort Police Chief Melvin Little said the evidence indicated Hibbert had simply lost his brakes. By that time, Hibbert's truck was pretty much a guided missile headed down the hill. According to Little, Hibbert passed 3 emergency truck ramps as he continued east toward Old Fort. Whether there was another mechanical problem, the truck entered the grade already carrying too much speed, or whether something else was happening inside the cab was never quite clearly established. What we do know is what witnesses saw when Hibbert reached the bottom. He left Interstate 40 at exit 73, traveling at an estimated 75 to 80 miles per hour. At the bottom of the ramp was Old Fort. Hibbert swerved hard to miss the car stopped ahead of him at the bottom of the ramp. At that point, the dump truck crossed the roadway, struck an embankment, and then went airborne roughly 85 feet before crashing into a building that was under construction. Hibbert died in the crash. In fact, Hibbert's crash was a terrible reminder of what can happen when control is lost on Old Fort Mountain. This highway carries traffic across the Blue Ridge every day, and most trucks make the descent without incident, using the same combination of lower speeds, proper gearing, engine braking, and advanced preparation. Most importantly, though, driver awareness. Nearly 150 years after railroad crews began attacking Swannanoa Gap, almost every generation of transportation built here is still visible somewhere along this mountain. The railroad is still here. Freight trains still climb the Old Fort loops between Old Fort and Swannanoa, following a route first built in the 1870s and passing through the tunnels driven into the mountain nearly a century and a half ago. In fact, there's a strong irony in the fact that the load that Hibbert was carrying was planned for the railroad that had first entered the way into this passage itself. The old highway is still here too. Portions of the former US 70 route remain along the mountainside near Point Lookout. The travelers who once stopped there for gasoline, food, and a view across the Piedmont now pass below on Interstate 40. And maybe that is the real story of this place. People didn't fail to conquer Old Fort Mountain. In many ways, they succeeded, and eventually carried one of the country's major interstate highways across it. It's really easy today to still see the suffering and scar marks left by Hurricane Helene, but the reconstruction, the part that Ralph Hibbert was a part of, still moves on today. Maybe you've got a story you'd like to tell. If so, please feel welcome to place them here. We'd love to hear your stories, and we try to answer each and every one of them personally. Now don't forget, at the end we'll be leaving a link to our video on the Siskiyou Pass. If you get a chance, please check it out. If you liked our video, if you wouldn't mind reaching over right now and hitting the like button. We'd also appreciate if you'd share it with a friend or family member that might enjoy it as well. Maybe they live in the area. And for that matter, if you're enjoying our stories that much, why don't you join us and ride along in the big BTE caravan? We'd love to have you be a part of it. You know, Beyond the Exit believes that the highway should be the hero of our story. And since YouTube can be like a great big freeway, we really appreciate you going beyond the exit to spend a little bit of time with us. Thanks as always for watching, and God bless.